Picture walking with your infant when a neighbor suddenly blocks your way, demanding you surrender her. Now picture your husband, a skilled Navy SEAL, observing every move closely. "Give me that baby this instant," the words sliced through the calm street like a whip. Simone Ibarra stiffened, holding her newborn closer to her heart. She'd been pushing the stroller along Sycamore Avenue in Chula Vista, seeking a breath of fresh air for her daughter after another sleepless night. The California sun was gentle, the air carried a hint of jasmine, and for a fleeting moment, she'd felt a sense of calm. Then Patricia Grenville appeared. Patricia, the self-proclaimed ruler of the neighborhood and head of the Homeowners Association, stood like a barrier in front of Simone, her sunglasses mirroring the young mother's stunned expression, her mouth tight with irritation. "You can't just parade her around like that," Patricia snapped. "There are standards here. I need to ensure she's safe. Hand her over." Simone's voice quivered. "She's my child. I'm not handing her to anyone." Patricia tilted her head, as if Simone's refusal was a trivial annoyance. "This is an HOA community. Safety is our priority. I have the authority to check," she declared, each word laced with an unearned sense of power. The sheer nerve of it made Simone's chest constrict, her arms instinctively cradling her baby tighter. She wanted to believe this was a misunderstanding, that Patricia might be joking, but the woman's icy stare said otherwise. "I'm not giving you my daughter," Simone said, her tone growing steadier. Then a deep voice came from behind. "She doesn't need to say it twice." Simone felt a surge of relief as her husband, Adrian Holtby, stepped nearer. His presence changed the atmosphere, tall, broad-shouldered, exuding the quiet assurance of someone who'd faced dangers most couldn't fathom. Adrian had been standing a few feet away, giving Simone space, but Patricia's demand had crossed a line. Patricia's gaze darted to him, then back to Simone, her expression souring. "And who are you to interfere?" Adrian's voice remained even. "Her husband, the father of that child. Now step back." The sidewalk turned into a theater, every nearby house watching. Curtains shifted, a neighbor's door cracked open, whispers floated, and a phone camera captured the scene from across the street. Patricia didn't flinch. She folded her arms and scoffed. "I don't care who you are. We have regulations. If your wife is walking with that child in this community, I need to verify it's being done properly. If you've got nothing to hide, there's no issue." Simone's stomach churned. Was this really happening? Just days earlier, she and Adrian had been thrilled to settle into what they thought was a tranquil neighborhood to raise their daughter, chosen for its strong schools and family-friendly vibe. Yet here she was, being ordered to hand over her infant like she was smuggling something illegal. Adrian moved forward, his eyes locked on Patricia. He didn't raise his voice, his steady tone cut through her bluster. "No one touches my daughter. Not now, not ever. You're finished here." A hush fell, even the leaves seemed to pause. Patricia's jaw twitched, but she held her ground. Simone's pulse pounded, her arms aching from gripping her baby so tightly, but she wouldn't let go. She wanted to shout, to demand an explanation, but fear of Patricia's next move kept her still. Patricia leaned closer, her voice dropping so only Simone and Adrian could hear. "If you don't comply, I'll call the board and the police." Adrian gave a short, disbelieving laugh. "Call whoever you like. You won't get past me." From a nearby porch, a man muttered, "She's lost it." Another whispered, "That's too far." The neighborhood was stirring, eyes fixed on the confrontation. Simone swallowed hard, her baby whimpering at the tension. She pressed her lips to her daughter's forehead, whispering softly to shield her from the chaos. Patricia's voice grew sharper. "I'm the HOA president. If you two want to live here, you'd better learn how things work." Adrian's expression didn't waver, his words like iron. "I've survived war zones. Your HOA rules don't scare me." For the first time, Patricia blinked, caught off guard by resistance she hadn't anticipated, especially from a man whose calm seemed unshakable. Neighbors edged closer, some recording openly. Patricia shifted, her authority faltering, but instead of backing down, she doubled down. "If you refuse, I'll escalate this to the board immediately. This isn't over." Adrian took a step closer, just enough to make his point. "Yes, it is. Right now. The baby's cries pierced the tension, and Simone rocked her gently, her heart racing. To understand why Patricia Grenville believed she could demand a mother's newborn, you need to know who she is, or rather, who she thinks she is. Patricia didn't inherit power, but she'd learned to claim it in the spaces that mattered to her. In her 20s, she was a real estate assistant in Orange County, running errands and making calls. By her 40s, she'd married well, moved to a prestigious Chula Vista development, and found her calling in a role no one else wanted, HOA president. At first, neighbors saw her as helpful, organizing block parties and sending reminders about trash pickup. But power emboldened her, and people, reluctant to cause trouble, let her push further. Rules are rules, she'd say at meetings, tapping her papers like a judge. Her rules went beyond lawns and paint colors. She once reprimanded a veteran for a front yard vegetable garden, claiming it ruined the aesthetic. She ordered a single mom to remove her daughter's trampoline for safety violations, and tried to fine an elderly widow for feeding stray cats, saying they attracted pests. Behind closed doors, residents grumbled, rolling their eyes over backyard fences, exchanging glances at meetings, and venting in group chats about her latest email. But no one challenged her, until Simone and Adrian arrived. Patricia's first impression of the Ibarra-Holtby family was colored by her biases. Simone's natural hair, casual yet confident style, and Adrian's quiet strength unsettled her. To Patricia, they weren't just new, they threatened the hierarchy she believed she controlled. She told herself she was protecting the neighborhood, but her actions betrayed a deeper need for dominance. Demanding Simone's baby wasn't outrageous to her, it was enforcing her version of order. What Patricia didn't see was that her neighbors were keeping score. A young couple, the Parks, had bristled for months after Patricia demanded they remove their wind chimes. Mr. Rodriguez still fumed over a fine for leaving his recycling bin out too long. Mrs. Liu quietly resented Patricia reporting her grandson for biking too fast. So when Patricia blocked Simone that day, she wasn't just an HOA president enforcing rules, she was a woman standing on years of unchecked behavior. Neighbors weren't just watching, they were waiting. At the time, Simone didn't know Patricia's history. To her, this was a clash with a deranged stranger. Adrian, however, had pegged Patricia's type from day one. He'd noticed her lingering at their driveway, jotting notes about their landscaping. "Don't let her bother you," he'd told Simone. "People like her need attention. Ignore them, and they lose steam." But he hadn't expected her to escalate to demanding their baby. It wasn't a random outburst, it was the peak of years of Patricia believing her authority was untouchable. She was the president, the enforcer, the final say, and even when neighbors whispered behind her back, they complied. This time, though, she faced a mother fiercely protective of her child and a husband whose calm hid a strength forged in places Patricia couldn't imagine. Still, Patricia couldn't read the room. In her mind, she wasn't unreasonable, she was maintaining order, proving her authority extended even to the sacred bond between parent and child. It was warped reasoning, but Patricia lived in a world where her control trumped everyone's dignity. As neighbors pieced together the incident, something shifted. Her authority was openly questioned, whispers grew louder, and video clips spread. Her reign over the cul-de-sac took a hit she couldn't dismiss. But if Patricia was shaken, she didn't retreat. The next clash with Simone and Adrian would escalate beyond words. Before the Sycamore Avenue standoff, Simone and Adrian had been eager for a fresh start in Chula Vista after years of military moves. They chose this neighborhood for its quiet streets, good schools, and community feel. For Simone, it was the perfect place to begin motherhood. For Adrian, it was a calm after years of chaos. Simone, raised in Sacramento by a librarian and a nurse, found joy in small rituals, brewing coffee, tending plants, reading late at night. She met Adrian at a barbecue near Naval Base Coronado, drawn to his quiet strength. Adrian, a SEAL, had seen things that never made the news, but at home, he was gentle, cooking on Sundays, loving jazz, and tinkering with an old motorcycle. When their daughter Ava was born, their world shifted. The exhaustion of new parenthood was real, but so was their love. The move to Chula Vista was meant to anchor them. They'd saved for years to buy their two-story stucco home with an olive tree out front. On their first night, Simone whispered, "We're home." Adrian kissed her forehead. "Yeah, we are." They knew about the HOA but thought it was manageable. The realtor called Patricia, involved, and Simone pictured someone who planned bake sales. No one warned them about Patricia's obsession with control. In those first weeks, Simone tried to settle in, joining a mom's group, taking Ava on walks, and chatting with parents at the park. Most neighbors were warm. Mrs. Lou brought dumplings, the Parks dropped off a casserole, Mr. Rodriguez offered a ladder. But Patricia was different. She left a highlighted HOA pamphlet in their mailbox, quizzed Simone about landscaping, and told Adrian, military families usually rent, not buy. I hope you understand this neighborhood's commitment. Adrian brushed it off, telling Simone, she thrives on control. Stay focused, and she can't touch us. But the incident with Ava shattered that hope. For Adrian, it triggered instincts he thought he'd left overseas. He could read threats, subtle shifts in tone, posture, intent. When Patricia demanded the baby, every fiber of him screamed danger, not combat danger, but the insidious entitlement threatening his family. For Simone, it exposed a raw vulnerability. Motherhood already made her feel exposed, and having someone question her right to hold her child shook her deeply. In the days after, she replayed Patricia's mirrored sunglasses, her audacious tone, and Ava's cries. Each memory tightened her chest, urging her to retreat indoors. But Adrian wouldn't let fear define their life. This is our home. Still, Patricia wasn't done, and the sidewalk clash was just the start of a larger battle. That late morning, the sun shone brightly, but Sycamore Avenue felt heavy. Simone stood frozen, Ava in her arms, as Patricia blocked her path like a sentinel. What began as an annoyance spiraled into something dangerous. I said, hand her over, Patricia repeated, her voice cutting across the lawns. You can't walk here without clearance. We don't know if that child is safe. Adrian stepped closer, his tone steady but firm. Don't finish that sentence. Patricia hesitated, then snapped, you don't get to talk to me like that. I run this neighborhood. If you're hiding something, we'll find out. Simone's stomach twisted. She pressed Ava closer, the baby's tiny hands clutching her shirt. Hiding something, she shot back. She's my daughter, born at Sharp Mary Birch Hospital, right down the road. Want her birth certificate too? Patricia's lip curled. If that's what it takes, yes. The gall of it hit Simone like a blow. You're out of line, she whispered, anger steadying her voice. Way out of line. Adrian moved between them, his presence shifting the scene's weight. He didn't posture or raise a fist, just stood with the quiet power of someone who knew his strength. Patricia mistook his calm for weakness. Don't intimidate me, she hissed, chin raised. I know my rights. Do you? Adrian asked softly. The silence that followed was heavy. Neighbors quieted, phones steady in their hands. Mrs. Lou clutched her gardening gloves, the Parks exchanged uneasy looks, their toddler peeking out. No one intervened, but no one looked away. Simone's hands shook as she adjusted Ava, who fussed from the noise. Her heart pounded, but her voice held. Patricia, I don't know what makes you think you can demand my baby, but you're not touching her. Patricia scoffed. I'm ensuring this neighborhood's safety. That's my job. People like you, she stopped, but the words landed hard, making the crowd bristle. Adrian's jaw tightened. He leaned slightly forward. Finish that sentence, and you won't like what happens. Patricia's bravado cracked, her face flushing as she stepped back. But her pride wouldn't let her retreat. This isn't how things work here, she jabbed a finger at Simone. You can't just move in and ignore the rules. I'll take this to the board, and you'll regret it. Try it, Adrian said flatly. I'll be waiting. The air crackled, every neighbor's gaze locked on the scene. Patricia's eyes darted from Adrian's steady stare to Simone's protective hold on Ava. For a moment, it seemed she might reach for the baby anyway. Simone tightened her grip, instinct screaming. Adrian's voice was chillingly calm. Don't. Patricia froze. His tone, measured, final, was unlike anything she'd faced. This wasn't a neighbor she could bully. Adrian was a man who'd walked through deserts and jungles, faced enemies far more dangerous than an HOA president. She felt it, even if she didn't know his history. Ava's piercing cry broke the stalemate. Simone rocked her, tears stinging her eyes as she whispered, It's okay, baby. Mommy's here. Patricia opened her mouth, but her words caught. The neighborhood stares weighed on her. She wasn't the authority anymore, she was the judged. Adrian spoke again. "You're done, Patricia. Go home." Her nostrils flared. "This isn't over." "Maybe not," Adrian replied. "But today, it is." Patricia stood for a moment, trembling with rage, then spun and stormed off, her shoes clicking sharply. The crowd watched silently. Simone exhaled shakily, pressing her cheek to Ava's head. Adrian placed a steady hand on her back. As Patricia disappeared, the block became a stage. Curtains fluttered, garage doors cracked open, phones recorded. Mrs. Liu paused her rose trimming, staring in disbelief. The Parks, Dylan and Jay, returned after settling their toddler, arms crossed. Dylan whispered, "She finally snapped." Jay shook her head. Mr. Rodriguez muttered, "Same old Patricia, always too far," fumbling to record discreetly. Teenagers ditched their skateboards, whispering, "This is going viral." Simone focused on Ava's cries, her hands trembling with adrenaline. She hated that Patricia had made her feel afraid in her own neighborhood. Adrian noticed every onlooker but welcomed the cameras. Patricia thrived in secrecy. Here, exposed, she'd faltered. When Patricia turned halfway to her house, considering another move, the crowd's murmurs grew. "Don't do it," Dylan muttered. "She's embarrassing herself," Jay added. Patricia shouted, "You all saw this. She refused a reasonable request and disrespected our rules." Her victim act drew exchanged glances. Mrs. Liu muttered in Mandarin, shaking her head. Mr. Rodriguez laughed bitterly. "Reasonable. Demanding a baby." Adrian spoke clearly. "My wife was walking with our daughter. That's it. This woman thought she could put her hands where they don't belong. That's not rules, that's harassment." Simone found her voice. "You don't get to demand my child. I don't care what title you claim." Patricia's face darkened, but her confidence wavered. "I was protecting us." No one responded. The silence condemned her. Dylan broke it. "There's safety, and then there's this. You crossed a line." Patricia's shoulders stiffened, the silence cutting deeper than insults. For years, her notes, fines, and threats had worked because people complied. Now, they were speaking, recording. Adrian guided Simone toward their house. "We're done here." Patricia shouted after them, "You'll regret this." Adrian didn't turn. "We'll regret nothing." The neighborhood stayed still until they entered their home. Then whispers resumed, heavier, rippling through the crowd. Patricia stood alone, red-faced, realizing she'd lost. Just a fight, but her grip on the community. Yet losing didn't make her retreat, it made her dangerous. Her next move would push the conflict further. For 2 days, the neighborhood buzzed. Videos of the showdown spread in group chats and onto Facebook, with comments like, "She's gone too far," and "Finally caught on camera." Patricia read them, each word stinging. She wasn't the enforcer anymore, she was a punchline. Her fury grew. By the third evening, she snapped. As Simone took Ava for another walk, hoping to reclaim normalcy, Patricia emerged, no sunglasses, just rage. "You think you can humiliate me?" she barked. Simone gripped the stroller. "Patricia, we're not doing this again." But Patricia charged forward. "You don't get to make me look foolish." Adrian stepped between them. "Back away. Now." Patricia's fists clenched. "Or what? You'll scare me with your tough talk." Adrian's voice stayed calm. "You're scaring yourself." Neighbors watched, phones out. Patricia lunged for the stroller. Adrian caught her wrist, firm but controlled. "Don't ever touch my family." Patricia's shock was palpable. She yanked her arm back, stumbling. Simone pulled Ava closer, soothing her cries. Patricia pointed shakily. "You assaulted me." Adrian didn't blink. "I stopped you from assaulting my wife and child." Everyone saw. The crowd murmured agreement. "We got it on video," someone called. Patricia's chest heaved, realizing the neighborhood wasn't hers anymore. "You'll regret this," she spat, but her words lacked power. Adrian stepped forward, neighbors nodding in respect. Patricia's obsession with control twisted darker, and the aftermath would shake the community further. When she stormed off, the street buzzed with disbelief and relief. People lingered, trading words and recordings. Mr. Rodriguez shook his head. She went. For the stroller. Who does that? Dylan muttered, she's lost it. Jay added, this has been building for years. Mrs. Liu spoke firmly. She scared that baby. That's unforgivable. Teenagers uploaded clips, laughing nervously. This is gonna blow up. Simone focused on Ava, whispering lullabies, her hands shaking. Adrian stood guard, scanning the crowd. He didn't care about gossip, only Simone's trembling hands and Ava's distress. Let's get you both inside, he said softly. Simone hesitated, wanting to confront the crowd but knowing Ava came first. Neighbors parted as they walked, offering support. We've got your back, Dylan said. Mrs. Liu squeezed Simone's shoulder. Patricia's house loomed, blinds drawn, door slamming. Inside, Simone collapsed with Ava, whispering, you're safe. Adrian sat beside her. You did nothing wrong. Simone's eyes shone. She looked at me like I wasn't a mother. Like I didn't deserve Ava. Adrian exhaled. You don't need her approval. Ava knows her mother. Outside, neighbors spoke openly. She can't stay president, Jay whispered. She'll try, Dylan replied. Then we push back, Mrs. Liu said firmly. The seed was planted, Patricia's grip was slipping. Simone, rocking Ava, felt the weight of the encounter. Patricia's outstretched hand haunted her, but Adrian's steady presence grounded her. This was their home, and no one would take that away. But Patricia's silence wasn't surrender. 10 days later, she called an emergency HOA meeting. The clubhouse was packed, tension thick. Patricia sat at the head, papers stacked, jaw tight. This meeting is to restore order, she began. Mr. Rodriguez laughed. Your order. Patricia ignored him, accusing Simone of spreading lies. Simone gripped Adrian's hand, pulse racing. Patricia's voice rose. If people break rules, this community falls apart. If you can't respect that, you don't belong. The room erupted. You went after a baby. Jay shouted. Enough. Mrs. Liu added. Dylan stood. We're done being bullied. Adrian rose, voice calm. We moved here for peace. Instead, the HOA president demanded my wife's newborn. That's not leadership, it's harassment. Simone stood, voice growing stronger. I wanted to raise my daughter in peace. You humiliated me. You don't get to tell me I don't belong. Applause broke out. Mr. Rodriguez moved to vote Patricia out. Hands shot up, nearly everyone. Patricia's protest drowned in the voices. The vote was overwhelming. She was removed. She gathered her papers, heels clicking as she left. No one followed. Cheers filled the room. Simone sat, breathless, tears welling. Adrian whispered, "It's done." Simone shook her head. "It's just beginning. We can build something better." Weeks later, meetings became collaborative, neighbors organized events, and Patricia's downfall became a lesson in dignity and resistance. If this story resonates, think about your communities. Sometimes, one voice, one refusal, can shift everything. Don't be afraid to be that voice. Subscribe for more stories of standing up in small moments.